Welcome to the video series on the Vermont Green Streets Guide, a resource for planning and building green infrastructure within our communities. In this video, you will hear Sophie Sauvé lead you through Section 4, Green Street Design Principles.
Aligning street and parking lot use with long-term Green Street objectives helps communities make the most of their streets and time projects for when funding opportunities arise. Designing streets to the three guiding principles of placemaking, greening, stormwater, and mobility is at the center of a green street. Approaching the design of a green street from a landscape perspective means stormwater management is part of a dynamic and complex system. It entails bringing together built and natural elements valuing water as a limited and precious resource rather than as waste and something to discard as soon as possible. It means making the most of the street within its context and identifying opportunities to apply low-impact development (LID) principles as much as possible. A landscape approach also means opportunities are identified to address runoff, placemaking, and mobility. Timing projects to take advantage of funding or simultaneous projects can mean Green Street design principles can be applied sooner than if the only goal was a green street. Low-impact development is a design approach that recognizes the value of natural landscape features that support the infiltration, evapotranspiration, and use of stormwater to protect water quality and associated aquatic habitats. LID principles indicate that key site characteristics should be preserved for optimal environmental outcomes. Before beginning to design a green street, take an LID approach and evaluate your site for successful ecological or community features that can be preserved or enhanced. This may entail expanding a wetland through a continuous system or identifying mature trees for preservation. At the core of the design of a green street is bringing built and natural elements together to manage stormwater. It recognizes that each site is unique, both in constraints and opportunities, and applicable design solutions must reflect the context. It is also an opportunity to address public safety by holistically designing more livable spaces and a more sustainable environment. In other words, by aiming to reduce the amount of impervious cover and seeing every surface as an opportunity to capture water, an integrated design can emerge which is not only effective but pleasant to experience. Green streets strive to meet three goals when addressing water treatment. 1. Water quality goals, 2. Flow reduction goals, and 3. Volume reduction goals. Achieving all three goal categories is ideal, but seldom possible based on site and capacity constraints. Water quality goals include ensuring that runoff that enters water bodies is free of pollutants. Filtration through assemblages of plants and soil media can physically trap suspended sediments, chemically bind nutrients and metals, and biologically transform pollutants. This goal may be especially relevant from a compliance standpoint for communities with an impaired water body. Flow reduction goals recognize the negative impact that stormwater runoff velocity can have on water bodies, regardless of the quality of the runoff water. Common strategies to achieve this goal include facilities that detain stormwater for slow release over several hours following a rain event. Stormwater detention ponds are commonly used practice to meet this goal, but they require large areas of land. Integrating functional design elements such as rain gardens, pervious paving, and green roofs in a decentralized system addresses flow reduction within a developed area. Naturalized surfaces can help slow the flow by mimicking the natural hydrological cycle. Achieving this goal may be especially beneficial to a community with a steep topography that contributes to accelerated velocity of flow. Volume reduction goals are focused on the management of the overall volume of water that enters water bodies as surface runoff. Retention systems that hold water for longer-term storage or infiltrate runoff into the ground reduce the overall volume of surface flow. Plants also play an important role in volume reduction by intercepting rainfall, taking up water from the soil, and causing evapotranspiration, as well as providing conduits for infiltration adjacent to root systems. Aiming for volume reduction may be especially beneficial for large catchment areas where the amount of runoff can be particularly damaging to receiving waters. Placemaking is an essential element in the success of green streets, yet it is often overshadowed by the importance of stormwater management. While streets are primarily used for getting from one place to another, they are also meant for people to walk, gather, rest, and interact. Placemaking is a way to make the village or downtown a better place to live and work by transforming streets into vibrant community places. Well-designed streets and wide sidewalks can allow for unplanned human encounters through amenities such as benches at street intersections and mid-block locations. Existing parking spaces and private frontages can be transformed into parklets, as shown in the example, that can foster a greater sense of place. Combined with a backdrop of green infrastructure and trees, streets can thrive, surrounding businesses can prosper, and stormwater can be managed. Another streetscape principle is walkability. Providing adequate pedestrian circulation along streets and in parking lots should always be a priority and should not be compromised when considering green streets. Many green streets can offer solutions for better pedestrian options that do not hinder pedestrian circulation by providing buffers from vehicular traffic, reducing pedestrian crossing distances, or improving side angles at intersections. Another streetscape principle is safe access. When on-street parking is designed next to a stormwater system, it is critical to consider where people will walk when they leave their cars. People need adequate room and a place to step when they exit their vehicle that does not interfere with the stormwater system. A minimum area of 3 feet wide adjacent to the street curb should be provided. Providing frequent walkways or bridges across stormwater systems can help pedestrians exiting their vehicles feel welcome. People also need to safely detect where there is a change in grade adjacent to walkways. Where there is a vertical grade change of more than 6 inches immediately adjacent to a sidewalk zone, every effort should be made to visually and physically denote this through installation of a raised curb edge, a low-profile railing, or detectable warning. These design elements give people, especially the visually impaired, a means to safely navigate around any grade changes. Another streetscape principle when designing a green street is bikeability. Bicycling, whether for commuting to and from work or school or for recreation, requires safe and connected streets. Design elements should address the range of both existing and potential bike users. On low-volume and low-speed residential streets, sharrows, which are painted symbols, should be included on the road to signal a shared use between bikes and vehicles. On busier streets, separate painted bike lanes and signage are often warranted. In high-use corridors and areas with on-street parking, bicyclists and vehicles may need to be completely separated from each other on the street through the use of landscape buffer areas. These landscape buffers are well suited for green infrastructure facilities that can also capture stormwater. Two other streetscape principles when designing a green street are transit facilities and outreach and education. Along streets with higher traffic volumes, transit stops and pedestrian amenities should also be included and connected to walking and biking systems. Green infrastructure systems such as stormwater planters, pervious paving, and green roofs covering bus shelters can provide stormwater benefits, along with opportunities for education about stormwater. Active pedestrian areas also provide educational opportunities to showcase the differences between conventional streetscapes and the functional landscapes of green street design. Investment in outreach often gives users of a site a greater sense of responsibility to keep the site clean, care for the plants, and respect the overall space. Another important streetscape principle when designing a green street is walkability in parking lots. Pedestrian circulation is an important design consideration when using stormwater systems in parking lots. It is essential to identify the primary pedestrian destinations in relation to the parking lot to determine desire lines. For stormwater management, align stormwater systems perpendicular to the sheet flow of water to maximize the capture potential. Beware that sometimes this optimum alignment conflicts with the desired pedestrian flow to and from a destination. In such cases, it is important to design a parking lot that provides bridges or pathways over the stormwater systems and/or walkways for people to walk safely alongside and prevent people from cutting through the landscaped areas. Inadequate provisions for pedestrian circulation along desire lines may result in trampled plants, compacted soil, and increased erosion in the stormwater system.
Thank you for watching. Next, you will hear Sophie Sauvé lead you through Section 5, Design Considerations.